Well, I overdid it on Saturday. I don't know why. I was in such a great mood all day. Hard to explain, but one cocktail turned into 4 or 5, and then Sunday morning at 6 a.m. rolled around rather quickly. And you know, that was Brighton and Hove Albion's first home win against us since the Goldstone Ground era, 1980. And we all see what's happening here. We are quite literally limping to the finish line, and we lost another player in that game. Let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Aston Villa 0. Welcome inside the parlor, my little happy place where every week I attempt to provide sober, second thought, unemotional analysis to all things Aston Villa based on almost, sadly, 40 years involved in the game in almost every single level. And what we saw on Sunday was a team running on fumes. You know the drill. You're driving along, you get the little notification, low on fuel, and the needle is just above the E, and then you decide, we're going to push this even further. Let's see how far I can get, and then the needle drops below the E. Well, that's where Aston Villa is right now. The combination of 50-plus games in all competitions, plus all the injuries we've had this year, long-term, short-term, means that there are now more demands put on the healthy players, or should I say able-bodied players, or should I say the last man standing, many of whom I'm sure are also carrying knocks and pings, judging by all the strapping and bandaging. And I understand and fully respect Unai Emery's no excuse culture. I get it. Because the minute you plant that seed, you give the player that opportunity to start thinking, oh, I can't do this. And that just complicates things further. Even Roberto De Zerbi acknowledged that this was not the same Aston Villa team he'd seen throughout the season because, in his own words, they looked fatigued. And it is what it is. We have to accept thin squad, lots of games that are getting more demanding and bigger as each week goes by, and we just have to hope that the teams responsible for rehabilitation, regeneration, nutrition, forcing rest, all of those things help us not derail our Champions League push or lead to some kind of Greek tragedy on Thursday. Because adding Morgan Rogers to the long list of players in the treatment room is not ideal, even though I suspect these players are told, make sure you deal with anything you feel right away, and so that little injuries don't become bigger problems. What is just so plainly obvious over these last couple of weeks, especially the last month, is that Aston Villa Football Club is not equipped as a squad to be seriously challenging in all these competitions with so few players at the tail end of an already very demanding season. I mean, we were thin last year and a little bit fortunate to qualify for the Conference League, but if we do qualify for the Champions League this year or have to settle for the Europa League, clearly we need to have 9, not just able-bodied, not just warm-bodied, but 9 competent players who are able to not just come in and fill a need, but maybe actually even improve us coming off the bench. And I'm quite sure that every single person associated with the club is fully aware of this fact. This is a huge summer transfer window coming up for both Monchi and Unai Emery. It's Monchi's first full summer transfer window in charge. He arrived at the beginning of it last year, so he couldn't have done all the pre-work. And yes, Unai Emery has improved virtually every single player he inherited. And he got his guys too. Moreno in the winter, and then Pau Torres and Moussa Diaby. All players he was very familiar with, and he got his guys. But he's had enough evaluation time. He knows who is going to stick around and provide more value, more potential, and grow into Premier League footballers. And he also knows who is expendable, along with some of the fringy people that have been around for a while. They have to clear that out. And I imagine that they are going to try to increase the quality, obviously increase the depth and the versatility within this squad to try to attack all competitions on all fronts. And the pre-work for all of this will have started months ago. And I imagine that come June 14th, they'll be ready to go, and we might even see some announcements that early. There's a very delicate balance between bringing in the right people and the right amount of new faces to then complement the foundational existing core group that got us to where we are today. And ideally, Unai Emery will want to have everybody together for preseason to help with the assimilation and adaptation period. And you see how Moussa Diaby started the season great, then had some ups and downs, and then had a nice little purple patch. But ideally, everybody will want to be together for our entire preseason. And although it's going to be a little bit more complicated this year with the Euros, I would bet my mortgage on the fact that Aston Villa has already identified its key targets and that they already know that those players are worth pursuing. We've heard a couple of names already, Hermoso and Baena, who just those two players alone are natural upgrades for our departing loan players, Zaniolo and Longley, because I don't see either of those two guys coming back. And I don't think you can build a squad and a business on loanees. I think you need to own your assets. And lastly on this, we've heard a lot of talk about how Aston Villa has to sell some players to make the transfer books work. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I trust Monchi and Unai Emery to have evaluated our squad and evaluated the market. And I am sure that they have already identified players who they think are better than what we have currently, short, medium, and long term, and perhaps are available at a better market value. The challenge is keeping your Premier League experience and not blowing the whole thing up, because you don't want too much assimilation and adaptation. And if that means that you have to make some room through player sales so you can make some strategic signings, I back them and trust them 100%, because I don't know if anybody's played the market better than Monchi over the last 10 years. I can now finally and officially welcome you to the Holy Trinity show, where I try and figure out the 3 key issues or moments that define Brighton 1 and Villa 0. And we had a correspondent debut in Essex on the south coast. Russell Cramphorn, another very dedicated Villa fan who travels far and wide to support his beloved club from his home in Deal, Kent. And he's not shy about saying hello, is he? I think he was photographed with almost all the Villa players and staff. Thanks a million, Russell, for grabbing that coveted B-roll for the show in and around the Amex. And as for the key numbers, well, they confirmed what we saw, a grim old day, especially in front of goal. We had our lowest expected goals value of the season at 0.05. That is about as low as you can get. We did hit the target once from our 2 attempts, but did not register a big chance. Possession was close, passing accuracy close, but we didn't manage even one accurate cross in that game, even though we did get into the wide areas a couple of times. Slightly ironic issue, but Paul Barber, the CEO of Brighton and Hove Albion, who's done an unbelievable job, let's be fair. I mean, that is a model outfit, the way they run that club. He is a card-carrying, full-on Tottenham Hotspur man. And I knew Paul when he was here heading up the local MLS club, and in his office he had the archived history book of Tottenham Hotspur, which came with a pair of white gloves that you'd have to wear in order to leaf through it. And I'm sure he will have been well chuffed to have tried to help Spurs out on Sunday a little bit, unlike last year when he wasn't able to help them out on the last game of the year. But ultimately, I still don't think it's going to be enough. On that note, predictably, we did get some help from Liverpool on Sunday, although it was a little bit dodgy at the end, as we got help from Arsenal and Chelsea before that, and now we just need title-chasing City to win their game on the 14th of May, and 4th place will be ours. It's not really how you want to claim a Champions League berth, but the table don't lie. The position is what you earned over the season. The magic number is down to 3. Big, unfortunate and untimely issue. Morgan Rogers going down with some kind of an injury early. Looked like a strain of some kind, whether it was hamstring or muscular, I don't know. But this is a guy who has been very handy for us. Big unit, great feet, has a nose for goal. And actually, in this game, I was watching this carefully. He was the one tasked with lining up in behind Ollie Watkins. Moussa Diaby was on the left and Leon Bailey was on the right, which is very logical, especially because Watkins was trying to drag the central defenders around. So maybe the manager thought, you're going to get a chance in that prime goal scoring area. Unfortunately, we'll never know. I also correctly predicted that Diego Carlos and Pau Torres would start in this game, along with Ezri Konsa on the right-hand side, but it was Robin Olsen, of course, who got the start over Emi Martinez. Tactical issue of note, when these two teams met in September, we did them by playing the long ball early, and that simply did not work on Sunday. In fact, I think Adam Webster was tasked with man-marking Ollie Watkins throughout the game because they had so many duels together, and everywhere Ollie Watkins went, whether it was wide or coming short, there was Adam Webster kicking lumps out of him. I mean, the two are going to need couples therapy after that game, the way it went. And here's a great example that shows how Ollie Watkins is probably running on fumes. That chance where he breaks down the inside left channel, how many times have we seen him in that position? Either try one, bending it towards the back post, maybe for a rebound, or he fakes that, goes to the byline, and then cuts it back for somebody else. And the other part of that trying to play early long balls over the top business is that Diego Carlos, who I would not be surprised to see leave Villa Park this summer, especially with Tyrone Mings coming back from injury and, of course, these Hermoso rumors, but he was 1 for 8 on attempted long balls, and most of those were over the top, and most of those were overhit, which surprised me because not only is that his shtick, that's his thing. It's one of the reasons we brought him here. But he's also one of the fresher guys in the squad right now. The Holy Trinity Show's magnificent sponsor, 24/7 Services, is not running on fumes. They are fully fit, energized, and ready to tackle pretty much anything. They'd go to Greece on Thursday and do some kind of large-scale job. I wonder if they do demolition work, like stadium implosions. Anyway, they do a lot of work for big corporate clients on safety hazards, like trip hazards especially. And here's one they did with a co-op store, and co-op contracts them for all sorts of maintenance projects. But here you have one of those issues where first you have to understand the problem, then you have to understand the solution and all the codes, and then sometimes you have to improvise to fix the problem. And this doesn't seem like a big thing until a customer trips and does a lip stand, at which point the lawyers get involved. So it's not always pretty paint and nice fences or a perfect roof. They do all sorts for all types of customers, maybe even you. Big moment number 3, the early penalty shout. The Incredible Hulk, Rob Jones, was our referee, and miserable Michael Oliver was the video assistant referee. And this moment came around so soon in the match, I almost wondered whether Stockley Park had forgotten to switch on some of the cameras. It came that early, but what irritates me to no end in having watched both penalty incidents over and over is that they were not dissimilar in some ways in terms of the contact, the location in the box, and yet they were kind of treated differently, weren't they? We all know Unai Emery. It is not in his nature or his character to ever criticize referees publicly. You never see him doing it. But you could clearly see him saying to the fourth official after this incident, it's a foul. And if it's a foul in midfield, it's a foul in the penalty area, ergo penalty. And Mr. Emery understands the game enough to know what a foul is. And you've heard me say this probably to a nauseating degree, but you get a goal inside the first 5 minutes, it changes the complexion of the game entirely, especially if you're the away team, and especially if both teams are not coming into the game in what we call scintillating form. Big moment number 2, the late penalty shout. Simone Adingra was head and shoulders the best and most effective player on the park for either side, and playing Ezri Konsa as a right back in this situation seemed perfectly logical because Ezri Konsa is very hard to beat for pace over short distances, long distances, and as we know, he rarely ever gets dribbled past. But in this moment, unfortunately, he was 1v2 and on the receiving end, unfortunately, of a perfect 1-2, and credit to Joao Pedro because it was a perfect one-touch. that played Adingra in behind Konza. I almost wonder, should there have been somebody closer to João Pedro in that situation? But once a player gets in behind you, any kind of contact is obviously risky. But if we're comparing the contact on Adingra there by Konza with the clip on Morgan Rogers where the defender doesn't get the ball but does contact Morgan Rogers, well, then it seems like there's somehow a discrepancy in the applications or the interpretations of the law. Yes, Adingra gets behind Konza and he gets contact. Does he go down easily? Little bit. Still, all we ask for from match officials is consistency. And somehow when you put these two incidents side by side, it does seem like they're kind of arbitrary. And the number one big issue that defined Brighton 1, Villa 0, Robin versus the Seagulls. See what I did there? I know that Gary Bryant Prescott, a noted birder, will be appreciative of that one. It's always difficult when fans blame players for losses or scapegoat them for that matter. And it will have been a very difficult week for Robin Olsen, who conceded 6 goals in but 3 halves of football. And the trouble for our big Swede, or any goalkeeper not named Emi Martinez in our squad, is that for the vast majority of the season, you are going to be either training or watching from the dugout. So really, it should come as no surprise then that after 3 games of involvement, we saw a battling goalkeeper who looked confident, made a couple of key saves and interventions, and very nearly bailed us out at the very end. I mean, this is the closest any backup to Dibu Martinez will be to being settled. And of all the moments that he was involved in this game, it was 2 in quick succession that probably kept us from going under earlier. Late in that first half, he has to deal with an awkward through ball and in the process either gets clipped or lands awkwardly on his shoulder, which required actually lengthy treatment, for which I was actually starting to get concerned. It also required a very nervy looking warm-up from backup Joe Gauchi. But he deals with that, shakes it off, and then not moments later, Pascal Gross is played through. And this was eerily similar to the situation that led to the 2-0 goal on Thursday night in the first leg of the semi-final, where the player is coming across goal and Olsen has to stay with him, but this time he drops down. It's almost as if you could see the thought bubble above his head saying, "Not this time." And he blocks it away and then pounds his arm on the ground in self-congratulation. Needless to say, if that goes in there, especially under him again, that would have been difficult. Oh, and then João Pedro, 10 for 10 from the penalty spot this season, steps up and is denied, almost Emi Martinez-like, by Robin Olsen. Unfortunately, Olsen's hand was angled in such a way that instead of the ball ricocheting wide of the post, it went straight back to the shooter, leading to one of the worst feelings in any part of the game, that hopeless, helpless, almost slow motion-like feeling when the shooter just walks in to cushion the ball into the corner of the goal. And at that point, even when I heard 9 minutes of stoppage time, I knew we were done. And our mastery of the Seagulls of late, 5 wins in a row, came to a crushing halt on the South Coast. We stall on a couple of the categories that I follow throughout the season, including away victories. Ollie Watkins' quest for 20 goals is still alive, but the Golden Boot race feels done and dusted after Erling Haaland's Saturday. We gave away our second penalty in 3 league games, maybe another sign of fatigue, and our second half plus-minus continues to trend in the wrong direction. Now, a trip to the port of Piraeus on the outskirts of Athens for the semi-final second leg, and judging by the comments that I was reading on my Olympiacos review show from last Thursday, this is not a very classy fan base, and one I would love nothing more than to stuff on their home patch by Aston Villa pulling off some kind of an amazing comeback. Like, seriously, these fans, are they like an extension of their owner? You know, a guy who was banned from football because of corruption allegations, the same guy who owns Forest and was deducted points because of their financial malfeasance. Just very odd behavior halfway through a tie. Like, show some class, you Unfortunately, in my heart of hearts, and just seeing how limp we were at Brighton, I just don't know how we're supposed to muster up the energy and the drive to go and reverse a 2-goal scoreline on Thursday in Greece, especially because the hosts did not have a league game over the weekend. Now, Lille was in the exact same position. They didn't play a game between the two legs, and I thought they were the better team in both of those legs, so you never know. But the fact that the Conference League final is in Greece, in Athens, the Red Whites are going to be very, very motivated in the home leg of this tie, and I just hope it's not a mauling. Oh, I was up at the crack of early on Saturday morning, 4:30 a.m. to watch the championship relegation battle unfold. Oh, the irony of John Eustace taking Blackburn Rovers to division champions Leicester and winning 2-0 to survive. It was poetic, wasn't it? And I thank my lucky stars every night before going to bed, along with Wes and Nassif, who came at our lowest point, at our hour of need, and basically delivered on everything they set out in their 5-year plan, and without all the talk and all the bluster, and maybe bringing in really pretty but extremely dumb celebrities to help fluff the whole thing up, or saying dumb things like, "This is our house, this is our house." And they've delivered a record-breaking Premier League season. Until Thursday, be well, and as always, up the mighty Villa. The city and the Midlands are ours.